What's going on, everyone? This is Talks with Kenny, and here today we'll be reacting to Matt Walsh versus Maj Toure. It's truth over empathy. What matters more when the conservatives are trying to cater to the black community? Empathy or the truth? You'll decide. We'll decide this after this video. Let's watch.
For our daily cancellation, we head back to history class, a subject that kids learn every year in public school, which means that they never really learned the subject at all, of course. It falls then to others. Sometimes it even falls to podcasters without a college degree to pick up the slack. That's what I tried to do over the weekend and then on my show on Monday as we discussed the issue of slavery. No need to rehash all of my points. My primary goal was to communicate the fact that the story of slavery is much larger, much deeper, much wider ranging than the version they tell in schools and the media and Hollywood. As I observed, white people were slaves also. Millions of them were, in fact. The trade in white slaves, especially in North Africa, but even in North America, was big business. It's a fact, an important one.
To me, highlighting like other people struggling with a similar issue, it removes this fascination with trying to project this victimhood solely on the black community. That only the black community been through stuff. Everyone had a lavish, privileged life, and only black people were suffering under slavery, right? This kind of brings some inclusion to everything, right? Because in America and in public schools especially, all you get is this narrow view of American history that America is bad, America is racist.
But not everybody agreed, which isn't to say that they disagreed with the facts that I was sharing. You can't disagree with facts. You can either choose to acknowledge them or not.
Exactly.
But facts don't care about your feelings or your acknowledgement, it turns out. No, the critics disagreed not with the indisputable facts about slavery that I discussed, but rather with the fact that I was discussing them.
This is this thing. It's like we're in a fight right now in our culture, especially in America. PC culture will come and cancel it. It's like, oh, you're not supposed to expose that. Like you come out with facts saying, "Oh, men or women are different." Like the PC culture come in here and like X you out, like politicizing the scientific method. Like if you find something and you discover something that's, oh my God, this is not PC, it makes it bad, immoral. Like I don't understand what's going on in this culture. Like if the truth is the truth, then you shouldn't have you could feel some type of way about it, but you have to accept that it's the truth. It doesn't minimize or somehow move the lens away from your personal struggles. Just saying, hey, we're in it too. Like we through our history, we experience it through too. I don't know. To me, this is like a non-issue. So what's the problem with Matt bringing up that other people been slaves before? Unless, in my opinion, if you have an agenda, you want to try to make it seem like only black people went through slavery, then I see why you would be mad at what what Matt Walsh is bringing up.
They felt that it was horrible, Nazi-esque. It was racist, white supremacist, to even hint that there might be more to the slavery issue than the white enslavement of black Africans in the West from the...
Do the left only know how to gaslight? Like, it's crazy. So he's a Nazi for bringing up the fact that white people were also slaves as well. How is that Nazi? Like, I thought you hated other group of people. Like, what is going on? Like, how can you just because you added into the conversation, all of a sudden you're white supremacist? This is why I don't believe the left anymore. The left will call someone racist, and I'll be like, they probably just said something they disagree with. Like, these words are losing their meaning because the left overused them incoherently. Like, eventually, the left have to hold itself accountable that they are minimizing the very words they claim are meaningful. Oh, white supremacists. No one bats an eye anymore. And they're like, oh, you call everybody that just because they disagree with you. Oh, this person is a sexist. Oh, they probably disagree with you. That's what it is. Where are they? Where are they when they're sexist? And then when you can't prove it, you look even more foolish. Something I observe as being in the middle.
The 17th and 19th centuries. As mentioned on the show on Monday, the critics were mostly on the left, but not solely. Maj Toure, who's a well-known gun rights activist, was quite vigorous and relentless in his criticism. He said that my statements about slavery were dumb, reductive, counterproductive, horrible, retarded, his word, and many other things. He said that I was damaging the inroads that conservatives had made with the black community. And
the conservatives compromising their platform just to appease a small group of people is also not a sound strategy. If the conservatives are about, hey, we have to live in reality. If the reality of the situation is slavery wasn't something that exclusively happened to black people, true or false? Okay. And if you feel some type of way about the truth, It's not the conservatives' job to sugarcoat it or pander to you like the Democrats do, right? Because at the end of the day, you're a different party. You can't go in long and do the same messaging as the Democrats, because then the Democrats will come here and say, hey, look, they're trying to copy our message. They're trying to scam you. Like, no matter what the conservatives do, the Democrats will always try to spin it to help them their side. This is this nature of politics. Like, we have to accept that. So for us to change our style just to appease a group of people that may or may not vote for us is kind of counterproductive. Like, you're supposed to accept I am who I am, accept me for what I am or not. It's like a black person trying to go to a white person and change everything about them, lie about the fact that they came from the hood and all this stuff to appease them. You would say, oh, hell no, you are who you are. You're supposed to be proud for who you are. Okay, the conservatives are doing the same thing. They stand on truth, objectivity as much as they can, limited government, and they believe, hey, we want to secure an opportunity for you to help yourself. We're not going to help you. You have to help yourself. And that's the messaging the conservative party is doing. What Matt's doing is kind of in line with that. So if that offend you, then the Republican Party is not for you. But my argument is that you've been voting Democrat 50 years, 90%, 50 years for the Democratic Party, and you still seem like complaining about the same problem the last generation was complaining about. So the point of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. So maybe you want to give the Republican platform a look, and maybe me being coddled to, pandered to is not really helping me, because the Democratic Party is not incentivized to change anything about its platform, while the Republicans offer something different. Like, this is how you play a game. You don't put all your eggs in one basket. This is why the Hispanic vote is right now being the most coveted vote between the two parties right now, because they go 60-40, and in a matter of days, based on what the two parties do, they'll switch their vote. While with the black community, no one's pandering to you guys. Only the Democrats, really, because they need you. They need that 90% to show up, or else they'll lose. But the Republicans, they're both fighting for the Hispanic vote, and really the black people are being pushed to the side. And I think the black people can come back into the conversation if they start showing a willingness to vote Republican. Maybe 2022 will show that, and maybe the Democrats will actually change something about their platform. Say, hey, maybe the way we've been going about it is outdated. Just something to think about, black folks. Something to think about.
And he continued in this vein in many tweets and videos, railing against me for mentioning that white people were slaves. So finally on Monday, he appeared on my friend Jason Whitlock's show on The Blaze to further explain his point of view. I watched the segment, and I have to tell you that after listening to him, if anything, I understand his criticisms less than I did before. So let's go through this together. Listen.
On certain things, it's similar to a lot of conservatives. I'm very critical. It's almost like if we're going into the tactic room, right? What does this actually prove? I just did an interview and, we discussed, a guy said, well, what would be wrong with All Lives Matter? And I'm like, well, there's nothing technically wrong with it. If you thought that, you should have said it before BLM said Black Lives Matter. It's just what it is. And everybody knows I don't really bang with BLM as an organization, but the phrase and the reductive component.
Well, this is perhaps beside the point, but for the record, lots of us were saying all lives matter before BLM came along. That was and still is the...
Yeah, the pro-life movement been in existence since the 72. There's been an ongoing debate in American history, and all lives matter. I don't remember that phraseology, but I think it did came before Black Lives Matter. To me, Black Lives Matter look like a reductive thing, because if all lives matter, Black, Asian, Hispanic, we're all in that term phraseology, right? But then for you to segment a group of people and say their lives matter, it gives off the message that these people's lives matter more than everyone else. Because if you bring up everyone else, then it somehow minimizes that specific group, right? If I do white lives matter, you will say it's a white supremacist movement, but not the same energy for Black Lives Matter, right? Is this coddling of the black community is what I'm talking about. That we're not being treated equal here. Is that this like, oh, they're just sheep. They don't know what they do. Forgive them, Father, for they not know what they do. Like how long are black people going to accept this coddling? White liberals believe that they're the savior of black people. But every solution they bring into the black community and they implement in the black community, it makes the black community worse. So what that tells you, like, if you want better for your race, if you want better for your family, it's up to you to do that. It's up to me to make my family situation better, not someone outside the family, because at the end of the day, they don't know the intricacies and the nuances within the community to effectively provide a solution that they really need. Because at the end of the day, they always have a conflict of interest there. Democrats want you to keep voting the Democrats want you to keep voting Democrats, black community. So they're going to give you a solution where you still need them. Oh, here's welfare. And if you want to keep welfare, because they know the Republicans, they don't like wasteful spending. And welfare is not really doing what it was intended to do. It's from a conservative, especially me, I see welfare as an incentive to stay in the same economic status to receive that same benefit. And you have no incentive to actually progress for more. And you just to stay the same. And then the Democrats, when election season come in, they can say, hey, the Republicans are going to take away your welfare. And they know everybody that's in that program will vote for them. And that's the trade-off you make when you vote Democrat. They want more control, and you get cash and prizes. Even though, to me, they're scraps. Because at the end of the day, you can't really live off that. You still have to work. But if you make too much money, they'll take it away. Dependency. They're incentivizing dependency. They don't want you to make more money than $2,000 a month, but the benefits they provide you is like $50K a year, and that's what most people do when they're in welfare. It incentivizes dependency, and the Democrats got what they want. They got control. I have control. If they can feed you, they can starve you. I'm just saying. If you want to be free, you always got to go Republican. The Republican Party is the one that freed you anyway. Democrats wanted to keep y'all slaves, but hey, we're not going to go there, right?
Central motto of the pro-life movement. We didn't steal it from them. They stole it from us. We didn't start saying all lives matter when BLM came along. We kept saying it. We were told, though, that we had to stop saying it because somehow left-wing black activists were the only ones allowed to decide and declare which lives mattered.
That's racist. You gotta admit that's racist. Because if you flip it around, white people are only allowed to say white lives matter. If anyone else say anything otherwise, we would call it, oh, that's white privilege. So what are we supposed to call this here? Black privilege? Because to me, black people are coddled in this country. Like, honestly, like the only one who really direct with us are the Republican Party, because they don't see race. They don't believe in giving special treatment. They be like, hey, you're American? Yeah, okay, you can take advantage of these opportunities. That's it. That's really the Republican platform. Limited government. They're not going to go here trying to push all these programs to help you through life. Like, they're not going to help you through life with all these social programs. They're going to be like, hey, we can guarantee opportunities, because Republicans care about productivity more than they care about, looking nice and looking like they're the good guys. But that's what works. Societies before, when they couldn't afford to help people, they were like, hey, we rely on the most productive people in our society, and we want more productive people in society. That's the incentive that the Republican Party put. They want you to be productive, and in return, you have way more control over your life than the government does. But if you go to the Democrat Party, the government has more control over your life than you do, right? They'll take more of your taxes, right? If it was up to the Democrats, you guys would be taxed at 60%. You would literally be like almost, don't like to use this word, but slaves to the Democratic Party, because 60% of your income, like, you're working for the government essentially. 60% of your taxes, but here, look at all these government programs we give you. But are they really effective as the free market ones? In my opinion, healthcare should be put in the free market so they can compete against each other and give us the best quality product.
But even if we had started saying it only after BLM was formed, so what? It's still true. And besides, this is meant to be a response and corrective to BLM militants who, in fact, as is obvious, do not believe that all lives matter. The BLM movement is a black supremacist movement, and that's why all lives matter was and still is a necessary rejoinder to it.
Yeah, so if a White Lives Matters came out and then we all said all lives matter, would you guys have the same critique that you have right now? No, you wouldn't. I don't think so. You wouldn't. And Matt's calling out that Black Lives Matter is a black supremacist movement is true, because they use black men as like a pawn to their game. When they don't care about these men when they're alive, but the minute a white cop kills them, all of a sudden that's when they want to care. That's when they want, all Black Lives Matter. But in Chicago, black men are killing each other every day. 2 black lives lost in that interaction. One goes to jail and one's dead. But Black Lives Matter, they don't march in the street. They don't care. A child got shot in the head during a drive-by. Black Lives Matter ain't protesting for that. but let it be something that can help their agenda. Oh, cop killed black man. Oh, okay. Before all the facts come out, they already been marching in the streets protesting.
By the way, Maj is the founder of an organization called Black Guns Matter. He sells T-shirts with the phrase on it. So, Maj, were you saying Black Guns Matter before Black Lives Matter came along? Something tells me that you weren't. Yet you can use the BLM slogan to sell shirts and advocate for gun rights, but we can't use it to advocate for the fundamental worth and value of human life in general? It's reductive for us to say all lives matter, but not for you to say black guns matter? Interesting. Let's continue.
And let me be clear. If we're trying to make inroads into black communities, these types of takes that have nothing to do with anything.
Yeah, well, I got to stop you there again very briefly. We'll back up and play the whole clip. But he says, my take had nothing to do with anything. Well, that's not true. I mean, it had something to do with history, with truth, with the facts of the world that shaped human civilization. It had something to do with the racial grievance industry, which trades on the idea.
Yeah, the race hustlers, they trade on this idea that black people are this specific class, that they were the only ones that have been through slavery. They're the only ones that dealt with discrimination, when technically every immigrant has dealt with discrimination. My older sister used to always talk about how when she immigrated here, African Americans used to call her cat eater, right? Because she was Haitian. So they treat her like an other. Now, like during my generation, Haitians became more like integrated with Black American culture. So now we became more accepted. But even in that case, discrimination happened. Prejudice happened. Even within multiple communities. Irish went through the same thing. Like, it's the black people trying to sit here and saying that only they've been through stuff. It highlights, and you're minimizing other people's experiences in this country as well. And they were like, hey, we did it. Look at us. We're successful now. Why you can't do it? You're only one sitting here still complaining and bringing back old things that happened in the past. That you can't do something for yourself. If you didn't get the job, it's because you couldn't compete. That's it. When you go to a basketball team and you didn't make the team, you didn't make the team. Now you're going to say, oh, the coach was racist. All they do is, appeal to the black community's emotions. They'll vote for us. We don't have to do anything tangible for them. And that's the problem I have with the black community currently, that they don't get anything tangible for their vote. Like Malcolm X said, people who vote Democrat are political chumps. I'm standing on that, because what you got for 50 years, you've been voting Democrat. What you got for it? Oh, a federal holiday. You got a day off. Okay. What's more important, a day off or something actually tangible for your vote? Something you can look to and be like, hey, because of this, we have more opportunities. You're going to say Medicare? That been passed. They're just rehashing old stuff now. I'm just saying, man.
That slavery in America was a unique and unprecedented evil, when in fact it was not. It was an evil, but not unique or unprecedented. It had something to do with lots of different things. It had something to do with a book that I read and I wanted to talk about. It had something to do with what happened to be on my mind at that moment. All of these are perfectly fine rationales for sharing my thoughts. The criticism that Maj is offering here is by far the most useless, boring, and exhausting form of criticism, and also perhaps the most common on the internet. That's why I find it so irritating. This is the, why are you talking about this? Why talk about this and not something else? I don't care about this. Why are you discussing it? It's that whole routine. It's a totally worthless critique. It really is. Just because you don't find a subject important or relevant or worthy of consideration doesn't mean that nobody should ever talk about it. I don't have to explain to you.
This is something also it seems to be like a extension of black culture, that everything seems to revolve around them. Oh, we're the reason why the Democratic Party won last election. Yeah, maybe, possibly. Yeah, but if other groups of people didn't show up as well, you would lose. Like, they always want to make them the center. Oh, we're the reason they won. We're the reason they won. And they think they're like the arbiter of oppression or something. Like, they're the top victim in the United States, and that's a message sold to them by the Democratic Party. And then they want to bring that same logic to the Republican Party and saying that, yeah, we're the top of the victim Olympics pyramid, cater to me. And the Republicans like, no, you're just an American, and we already resolved all that stuff with slavery, and we're trying to make America better. If you got a better idea than what we're using now, hey, go for it, but it has to be rooted in objectivity. It can't be some subjective, I feel like, argument. Republicans ain't gonna go for it. I feel like that America is still racist, and then a Republican asks you, is America more racist today than it was in the past?
To you why I want to discuss something. I don't have to seek your permission ahead of time. If you don't care about the subject or find it important, then keep moving, keep scrolling. No one's forcing you to participate in a conversation that you apparently find so unworthy of your attention. It just would never, I'd never do this to people. I never go to someone else's page or listen to their podcast or whatever.
I think that's what emotional people do. Like, they'll see something that triggers them and they feel like they have to respond, right? Like telling someone something, and then usually it's nothing beneficial. Like, you're not adding anything new to the conversation. It's just mainly name calling, or you're trying to somehow dismiss the person's legitimacy in giving that opinion. That's all it boils down to. So some of the times when I'm in Twitter, it's the same shit. Like, I put something up. Oh, so did this person. I'm like, you can't conflate just because me and someone else agree with something, and because this person has a bad character, that what I said is wrong. If a murderer told you 2 + 2 is 4, and someone said, oh, murderers think the same way you do, that makes me a murderer now? No, it doesn't.
And then say, why are you talking about this? Why this and not this other thing over here? It's just, the criticism makes no sense.
Takes that have nothing to do with anything. It kind of like just gives extreme leftists more of a tool to utilize against us. And what I mean by that is, if I'm a person in the middle, let's say I'm a Democrat, and I'm not the extreme lefty, I think a lot of these guys are making moves that are like reactionary to what extreme lefties do.
Well, technically right now I'm a registered independent, and I always seen the both sides as, oh, they're tribal. Like, if they can do something, they both can do something the same, but based on who's on my team is my different reaction. Now, what I notice with the conservatives is they're more likely to disagree with each other than the Democrats, right? That's how the gun bans get passed. Like 10 Republicans will vote for the agenda that all Democrats voted yes on. But you never see that on the other side. You never see it do it the other way. When Republicans are pushing legislation, all of them are like homogeny. One, like, no, we're not voting for this. And they all vote in unison. So I see here, with conservatives, there's more free thinking there. There's more free thought in this party, because not everyone just blindly agree on one topic to push power like the Democrats are. The Democrats are like, how you call it? I am Legion type energy. Like, we all vote as one type of thing. Well, Republicans, you got Marjorie Taylor Greene here, Rand Paul here. Like, there's different views on the conservative side. So I feel like, I more relate to them because that's how I am. I'm not just a one issue voter. So to me, just because they're preaching a different message than the Democrats doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to repulse me because, oh my God, they're not pandering to me. Oh my God, they're not kissing my butt. Oh my God, they're not saying I got hot sauce in my purse and making me feel like I can relate to them. No, they don't need to do that. They just say, hey, here's our platform. Now, that's just me. Maybe most black people, they like an emotional messaging. And maybe that's the case. Maybe Republicans need a more emotion-driven message, but it can't compromise their core ideology. And that's my whole point. This is my whole disagreement with Maj.
That doesn't advance conservative movements to people that may be in the middle in a Democrat.
You know what does push? Sorry, I keep pausing it. But you know what does push the conservative movements? Documentaries like What is a Woman? Documentaries like Uncle Tom. And Uncle Tom 2 is coming out. Let me know if you guys want me to review that. I really would love to review Uncle Tom and then Uncle Tom 2 as well. Let me know in the comment section. But these messaging, I believe that really what made me a conservative. Like, really be like, oh my God, I really am conservative. Because I found myself agreeing with everything that Larry Elder says. I'm like, yeah, I seen it. I don't know why it was so obvious to me, but I try to convince some of my friends, but I didn't have the facts behind me, and they'll be like, oh no, you just talking like a white man or some shit, like some critique they'll give me. And it's not really a real argument. I'm like, how I'm talking like a white man when I'm just stating out something I observe. Crazy, right? But this is the group thing that the Democrats want you. The Democrats want you to be like them. I am Legion. We all vote as one. That's the same messaging they want the black community to do. Hey, vote for one party, and that's us. If you ain't vote for me, you ain't black. Joe Biden said that. Come on. When are we going to stop letting other groups of people define what black is? Black is, you got to be a thug, rapper, athlete. And if you fall outside of this stereotype, you're not black. You ain't black. Ben Carson. What's the name? Trevor Noah making fun of Ben Carson. You crazy, Trevor Noah? That guy's a leading neurosurgeon. But, you want to make fun of him because he doesn't speak like what you expect from a black person.
Democratic city. So we say a thing, and then an extreme leftist packages it and says, see, they're minimizing your ability or the history of the transatlantic slave trade. Now, Matt may have not been trying to do that. I'm talking about from a tactical and strategic standpoint. The left dominates urban and black America because they understand PR and messaging way better than the right does. Simple and plain.
I give it to him, but I think also that like now that I do like more research and hearing from other like black conservative leaders that they've been trying to campaign. One of the things is that the Republican parties know that they can still win an election without the black vote. So they're not really putting energy and time and effort to courting the black vote as much as the Democrats are doing. Now, I believe that's changing because now we have outreach programs like PragerU. We got Larry Elder and what he's doing with Uncle Tom. Now, culturally, we're trying to, fight for the black vote. But the Republican Party really can't get behind that because there's other resources that they're focused on. Like right now, they're trying to court the Hispanic vote right now, which is more likely they can get than the black community, which seems to show blind loyalty to the Democratic Party. So, if we're being strategic here, Hispanic votes the Conservative Party will go more for the Hispanic vote because their vote is more up in the air than the black community's vote. Now, it's up to people like voices like mine, Larry Elder, to really try to get the black people to say, hey, like, there's a good opportunity here and you can have control of your own destiny if you vote this way and you allow these policies to put in place instead of being under the thumb of the Democratic Party and the state. Like, what sounds more like freedom? It's like slavery all over again. The Democrats put you in a plantation. Here, we feed you, clothe you, give you free health care, but you got no movement. And then you look at us being free and you're jealous of us. You're like, oh, how come, why these people get to drive these nice cars? How come they got all this wealth and stuff? And I'm living here with the scraps that my master gives me. Okay, free yourself from the Democratic plantation. Come over here. Oh, no, I'm scared. And that's what Uncle Tom signifies, that the black conservative is trying to tell the Democrat, hey, come over here. It's better on this side, but it's scary. Where my food going to come from? Where my healthcare going to come from? Well, you have to provide that for yourself. That's the trade-off you make. And then you get called out Uncle Tom. But that's the story of Uncle Tom. Uncle Tom was trying to free the slaves and died trying. I think that's a good name to be called if you're a black conservative. And it's true. You can disagree with me, but let me know in the comment section.
They have to because they don't have many facts. Sorry, they just don't. So they have to be very good at smoke and mirrors and lying and PR because that's what a lot of public relations or perception and reality is. This, and I think maybe Matt's following maybe took it a little too, they got a little sensitive about it, but it's always one step in the right direction.
But you can't expect a measured reaction when you're here calling him retarded, or say dumb, like you're name calling, and you expect someone to be like, no, you should, like, if you calling someone a name, you should expect some name calling back, I'm just saying.
With a lot of conservatives, and then we say something that makes the job of my job a lot more difficult because it's like,
I don't think so, because if someone say, Matt Walsh is minimizing the experiences of the black community, I said, how long ago did we experience all that? No one living alive today experiencing slavery. Racism, maybe. Slavery, no, because you have to be 400 years old to still claim that you personally experienced slavery, which is way in the past. So I go, why you always have to dug up in the past? Why not judge America where it's at right now? Where's the racism you speak of? And then when you bring it up, I go, okay, is that racism able to be a significant obstacle in your life? You're going to tell me no. If you're being honest, you're going to be like, nah, people going to call me a name. Okay. And then what else? It ends there. They can't stop you from taking advantage of opportunities. And that's the most important part that the Republican Party is worried about. Can you access all the same opportunities as someone else of another race? Yes. Okay. Then the Republican Party felt like we did our job. Now it's up to you.
This facts don't care about your feelings concept. And how has that been working out for us by not expressing any type of empathy first?
Well, actually, thank you for asking. Refusing to be emotionally blackmailed by dishonest, manipulative cry bullies has been a tremendously...
Hey, you got to admit that's... To me, I think this is one of the reasons why black community also don't get catered to by the Republican Party, because essentially this is how they view us on the outside. Like, oh, you're just crying, okay, but you can fix your problem, right? Any argument I heard, systematic racism, I go, okay, what institution is still making your skin color a disadvantage? Can't give me an answer. I say, in my experience, being black actually gave me an advantage over someone else with comparable skills, because there's diversity and inclusion hiring, and that's usually benefits me, not the person of a more significant race, right? If it's an Asian person and it's me, and the company has a quota of Asian people because the profession I work in has a high Asian representation, they're gonna give me the job over the Asian person because they're trying to fill a quota. So does that sound like racism? It does. It is racism because then you're discriminating against an Asian person because you have enough Asian people in the company. But it's also special treatment. It's also prejudice. Like, oh, he couldn't make it on his own if we didn't do this special favor for him. No, it's insulting almost. But you'll take it because you're like, oh yeah, it gives us more opportunities. You're only thinking about yourself. Now, if everyone thought like you did, we'll be back at segregation all over again. So if you want to be in an integrated society, black people, you have to accept that everyone has to be treated consistently, equal. What you can do, the other person can do, right? So if you get both two have the opportunity to apply for the job, but the outcome is up to the person who's making the hiring decision. But you can't pass legislation that forces them, oh, diversity and inclusion into corporations, and then it gives you an advantage to make up for what happened in the past that you never experienced. Because your ancestors went through something, then therefore you're entitled to special treatment? Don't sound like you really like technically earned that reparations. You get me? I don't know. Maybe I'm not making sense, but I try to articulate, rationalize as much as I can, but let's get back into the video.
Successful approach. And it's one of the reasons why the guy who coined that phrase is one of the most influential thinkers in the country, and the company he co-founded is making inroads into the culture in ways that nobody else on the right ever has.
True.
Certainly including our friend Maj. But let's back it up a bit. Maj accuses me of being reactionary, right? Reacting to the left. And yet his entire critique centers around the left and how he thinks we should react to it.
Yeah.
Well, we can't say that. The radical left will use it against us. He suggests that the black community will be easily duped by the dishonest talking points of the left, and so that we should calibrate our approach accordingly.
So yeah, this is how you get treated as an equal black community. Like, no one's here hand holding you, coddling you on this side, at least on the conservative side. They believe like, hey, you're capable. There's nothing here. Like, you may feel like you're discriminated against, but there's nothing here that actually condones discrimination. And if you find evidence of discrimination, we advise you go to court and you win some millions of dollars. That's the conservative argument right there. Because it's the do for self, personal responsibility. If you're being discriminated against, protect yourself. Hold the person accountable. You ain't going to let someone come here and punch you, beat you up because you're black. No, you're going to fight back. So fight back in all areas. Not just sitting there complaining and wanting a party to come here and, we'll give you free housing. Oh, we'll take care. Oh, you can't take care of your kids. We'll take care of your kids. When it's you making bad decisions and you don't want to lay in the bed that you made.
He does allow generously that perhaps I wasn't trying to minimize the transatlantic slave trade. Maybe I wasn't. But he says that the left will accuse me of doing that. So let me see if I have this right. You're worried that the left will accuse me of something dishonestly? And so your strategy is to head them off at the pass and accuse me of it first? Now, Maj, you're a smart guy. I know that you're not dumb enough to believe that I was minimizing the slave trade, or indeed that any rational person would ever do that. Suggesting that I even might have tried to minimize the slave trade by talking about other forms of slavery, it's like suggesting that I might be minimizing kidney cancer by talking about lung cancer.
Oh, that's a good one.
It's an incoherent, ridiculous, fundamentally dishonest accusation, and you know it.
Yeah. After hearing his whole explanation, and it's almost like, oh, are you trying to say that what I learned was bullcrap? No, it's just, hey, there's more to the conversation than just what you were taught. And I think that's what Matt was trying to bring out to light. And I just think it's just like, it was like an emotional flinch, right? Like PC, like politically correct. Like, oh, that's not politically correct. This can hurt you because black people have been coddled to believe the politically correct history, the politically correct science. And the minute you just say science, because you can prove it and validate it's happening in reality, people don't want to, oh my God, they don't want to see it. You put the evidence in their face and they'll still deny it. No, they'll try to dismiss it. They don't want to perceive that as true. No, that's your truth. No, it's the truth. Shout out to Matt Walsh.
Everybody understands that slavery in America was a terrible evil. Nobody suggests otherwise. Everybody agrees that it was bad, which is all the more reason why perhaps at this point it might be time to expand the conversation to talk about the forms of slavery that lots of people don't even know existed. We talk about slavery all the time in America, the American form of slavery.
Only to back people.
Kids learn about it. They make movies about it. Activists scream about it. It is a constant,
But they never point out like the good things in black, like Frederick Douglass. I never heard about Frederick Douglass until I researched on my own. Malcolm X, even though like, you know, he was seen as a divisive figure only because he didn't buy the bullcrap of the white liberal in the Democratic Party. He saw it for what it is. Like, hey, like these are two tribes and they're jockeying for our support so they can get their end game, right? A means to an end, like a win-win situation. But that's what he was going for. Hey, at least go for a win-win situation that you get something for your vote. And I think it's only possible with the Republican Party because their vetted interest is we want less people off the government. So that means they'll empower you as an individual to do for yourself instead of the Democrats who want more government, more control. They want you to be more dependent on the government. So they won't really give you legislation or policies that actually will empower you as an individual to perform completely independently on your own without their aid. That's why they put all this diversity and inclusion stuff, because they're saying, oh, you're only getting this job because of us, right? Which is not the case. You probably got it because you are best for the job and you just happen to be black. But they want to make it seem like, oh, you wouldn't have gotten this opportunity if it wasn't for this legislation. So that way your allegiance still ties to the Democratic Party. You get me? Like, these are the games that the Democrats play, I believe. But hey, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I really would appreciate it. And I'll see you guys on the next vid. Peace.